In the opening comments, the budget chair framed this as having been deliberated and reviewed for over 5 months. I will submit that reviewing and holding hearings and having each constituency of the budget parade before a committee doesn't equate to action. The action is what's in the documents we have before us. The action is what we're concerned about. The action is what we've been saying we have not had access to. The chair also said that this budget, in framing it as this wonderful construct, is projected to remain balanced for 4 years, which would give us long-term fiscal stability. And yet, we're only considering about 9 bills out of a package of 30. So how can we even know what's contained in the rest of the trailer bills, what mechanisms are in there? How can we even know whether the taxpayers are going to pass this tax in November, the foundation upon which this budget is built? And I will submit to you that the last 8 tax increases that have gone to the voters has failed, and this one will as well. It would be much better if we weren't living in this fantasy world and we were dealing with the reality and not holding our school kids hostage in the process to try to trick the voters into thinking the only way to balance a budget is to go out and tax them even higher when we remain one of the highest tax states in the nation, with 3rd highest unemployment, with jobs bleeding out of our state. Let's do job creation. That's the way you add to the budget. You don't go out and tax them more into oblivion. Now, the budget chair has been scribbling notes and will say words to refute everything that's been said. But I would like to leave you with these thoughts. This is an incomplete plan. We're told there's 29 budget and related trailer bills, yet we're only voting on 9 today. So let me ask this question. Why can't the majority party share the language, in print for 48 hours, of course, that contains the rest of the budget plan? Because, by the way, we don't even have those. Several of them we haven't seen anything. Others we've seen some vestige of it, but we don't know what the final product will be. And to that point, I have in my hand a budget trailer bill came out of Ledge Council at 11:31 p.m. Wednesday night. When was budget scheduled to hear this? At that time, it was scheduled to be at 9:30, immediately upon recess of session. Now, the Budget Committee was put off till 12 o'clock, but I don't think anybody in here, as screwy as our math may be, would think that's 24 hours, let alone 48 hours in print. I think that's a reasonable request, that we actually know what we're voting on. I think it's a reasonable request that the public actually have access on what the people they've elected to represent them are doing with their money. It was certainly not available for the public, and we should be ashamed of ourselves. The statements made to the press yesterday that the bills had been available were simply not true. Now, while we were not going to participate in the hearings on bills that we hadn't seen, we did watch that hearing yesterday, and as anybody else who watched it saw, we even had the budget chairman stating at one point he did not know what was in one of the trailer bills, and immediately following that, the Department of Finance stated they didn't know what was in the bill either. Where's the outrage? From my majority party colleagues, where's your outrage? You were elected to represent your people too. Is it like nighttime when you hear bedtime stories so long you can't sort out fantasy from fact? Is that what we've become around here? This secretive hide-the-pea budget process has to stop. It's no surprise that Governor Brown called the Democrat budget plan structurally imbalanced. As was stated before, the $16.2 billion so-called solution is about $14.5 billion, 93%, tax increases and gimmicks, and only about $1.2 billion, 7%, real programmatic spending reductions. Let me remind you, it's been stated again, this year's revenues are $5 billion higher than last year. Unfortunately, spending grows even more. Let me make my point. When the recession began, 2007-8 was our highest general fund year. You know, overall state spending has grown by $30 billion. All we hear about are cuts. Let's go back to the bedtime stories here. $30 billion increase since that time. Oh, we've borrowed from the off-highway vehicle fund. We've borrowed from the hospital fund. We've borrowed from every fund that's not nailed down. We've taken from cities. We bounced on the backs of counties. We call those cuts. They're not cuts to government growth. They're cuts to everybody else, so we're hurting them as well. This is a real problematic budget. It has no transparency, it has no reforms, it has no balance, and therefore is no good, and I urge your no vote.